far and down.
What a shot! All right, guys, we now welcome on a goaltender here in the Capitals organization, currently playing for our Hershey Bears. Backup goalie last year behind Braden Holtby, coming in winning 17 games in that Caps uniform. Guys, Pheonix Copley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time. So we'll kind of just start with something kind of weird. So per Wikipedia, you were born in the North Pole of Alaska.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Is that the real North Pole? And then secondly, kind of how did you get into hockey? What was your first memory of the sport, either playing it or watching it or going to a game? Or
Yeah, so I was technically born in Fairbanks, Alaska. My parents lived in North Pole, which is about 20 minutes from Fairbanks. It's about 2,000 people live there. Fairbanks has around 70,000, so a little bit bigger city. And then when I was a year old, my family moved to outside of Columbus, Ohio. So my actually first hockey memories were in Columbus, Ohio, watching the Columbus Chill play and Ohio University Bobcats. I think their D3 team.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first exposure to hockey, and me and my brother would go to games, and we'd be all fired up and go home and play hockey in the living room. And those were really my first memories of hockey. And then I moved back to North Pole when I was 8 years old.
Okay, so why the move back to it?
Well, my parents were getting a divorce, and that was kind of what was going on. And me and my brother ended up going to Alaska with my mom. And it was I think I was 7.5 or 8 at that time.
Gotcha.
And so yeah, I was in Alaska from then on.
Nice. So did you always want to play goalie, or did you start out as a skater, transition to goalie? How was that?
At first I was a forward, and then my brother's older than me, and when we were playing, he would always tell me to get in net, and I'd be the one who'd be shooting on. And at first I was just kind of doing it, and then I'd still be a forward. And then as time went on, I kind of started to like it. And then I remember asking my parents for a set of pads, and when I got those, I kind of fell in love with it and didn't look back.
For sure. So a lot of people take different career paths to the NHL. I mean, yours was kind of I think you did 3 or 4 different junior teams, and you did the 2 years in college. Kind of take us through, your journey once you got to that level of going through junior and college. Why did you go to the teams you did? Why did you, want to go the junior route and then straight to the college route instead of, a lot of people like to go play in Canada major juniors or something like that?
Yeah. So when I was 17, I went to California to play midget hockey, minor hockey in California, just to try and get a little bit more exposure. And then while I was there, actually, I didn't end up playing as many games as I wanted to. So I was kind of didn't work out as well as I would want it to. And then the year after that, the Corpus Christi Ice Rays were joining the North American Hockey League, a Tier 2 junior league. And I saw that they were having a tryout, and I was like, this could be a good opportunity to move up, and they're kind of going to have a whole new team, and there's going to be some goalie spots open. So me and my brother both went to that tryout, and we both ended up making the team. And it was kind of crazy. They were transitioning from the CHL, so they were a pro organization. They were transitioning to junior. So going there, it was a little bit of a different year. It was a good organization. They ran things like a pro team, but I think they were transitioning as well. So it was we didn't have a great team that year, but I got to play a lot of games and felt like it really helped my development. And getting to play with my brother obviously helped as well there. So
yeah, that seems pretty cool, getting to play with him.
That's kind of interesting. You mentioned that because you talked about how he would make you throw the pads on. I'm assuming you're pretty similar in age if you're playing juniors together, but how much were you guys always on the same team growing up into that point?
Yeah, I have 2 brothers, one stepbrother and one brother, Navarone. And so I was either on one of their 2 teams.
Gotcha.
My whole life growing up since I started playing competitively. And then that season in Corpus Christi, my brother actually got cut in, I think, December or January. And so that was the first time I wasn't playing with one of my 2 brothers was midway through that season. So that was kind of difficult at first because, I mean, like after games and whatever would happen, I would always have one of those 2 guys to talk to and kind of like hash things over with. And then after that,
calm you down at times.
Yeah, for sure. But then after that, it was like I was on my own, and I had to kind of figure things out on my own at that point. So I found that kind of challenging. And I remember at one point it was just kind of, it was hard to deal with, like if I was having a bad game or having a tough stretch, like not having one of those two guys to talk to. And so I talked to both of them a lot on the phone. I think that helped. And I think at the end of the day, it was the best thing for me to kind of develop, like go through some struggles on my own and learn how to deal with them. And I think it really helped me at the end of the day. But
yeah, get you comfortable with like uncomfortable situation type thing.
For sure, yeah. So, so I think at the end of the day that actually really helped me.
Yeah.
With him getting released, but it did really suck.
For sure, I can feel that. So, and then the college route. So, why Michigan Tech over? I mean, did you have other offers? Did you have schools to choose between, or was Michigan Tech kind of like one team that was there, willing to give you a shot?
Yeah, so I played in the USHL the next year, and I think as soon as you get to the USHL, colleges really start to just like send you messages and call you and everything. And because I talked to a couple when I was in the North American League, but it wasn't a whole lot of interest. But as soon as I started playing games in the USHL, there started to be a lot of interest. And so I talked to quite a few schools, and I narrowed it down to 3. I think it was UMass, Ohio State, and Michigan Tech. And Michigan Tech was the first one I had on my list to visit. And I went there, and it's in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and it's a really cool area, kind of remote, but a lot of outdoor stuff, waterfalls, and they had a really good coaching staff. And Steve Shields was the goalie coach at the time there, and so I was like, they obviously have a really good education system, but the hockey program there was really good as well. And the 2 things I wanted were a good education and a chance to move on in hockey, and Michigan Tech covered both those boxes. And so after I visited, I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to find a better opportunity to be coached by a former NHL goalie who really knows his stuff. And he had worked with Mitch Korn, and he had always spoken highly of Mitch Korn. And I was thinking, like, obviously Mitch Korn's best goalie coach in the game. And so I wanted to learn from someone who had learned from Mitch. And so at Michigan Tech, I was like, you know what, I don't think I'm going to find anything better. So after thinking about that for a little bit, then they had offered me a scholarship. So I was like, you know what, this is a good fit for me. So I went ahead, and I'm happy I did that. That was a good place.
So you go undrafted. Was that because you went kind of the college route, or was that kind of a shock to you? Or did you know at some point that you were just not going to get drafted, but you may have been signed later to an NHL team? Or
Yeah, I didn't really think about the draft at all. I knew, it's tough to get drafted, and I didn't really have like scouts talking to me a whole lot at that time. And so I wasn't surprised at all that I wasn't drafted. I would have been really surprised if I was drafted, to be honest. But I didn't really have scouts talking to me. So I was just like, I knew it was going to be a different route for me to get to the NHL. And so I just kind of knew I was going to have to kind of, I guess, come in the back door and work my way through the ranks. And that was kind of the way I saw myself getting there. And that's how I went through it.
Sure. And then the Caps reach out, they give you an opportunity. You spend your first full pro season, I should say, in Hershey. And that was a hell of a year. I mean, you went 17 games. It was like a .925 save percentage. It's one of your career bests. And then, boom, the year after that, you get traded to the Blues in that Oshie and Brouwer trade, where you're just kind of like, what the fuck? Like, how did that whole situation go down? Because you had a really good first year right there in Hershey. Yeah,
we had a really good team, and that was a fun year, and that was a great year for me to develop. And and then after that season, when I was really early on in my pro career, so you don't really think about the business side of it and the trade aspect of it. I signed a 2-year deal, and I thought I was going to be in the Capitals organization for 2 years, and so that's kind of where my head was at. And then so I was in Alaska in the summer, and I went on a 4-day float down a river where we don't even bring our phones because we don't have service. So I think it was a Thursday morning the trade happened, and that was the day we left. So I didn't have my phone. We were on the river floating and camping and fishing. And so I had no clue when it happened until Sunday. We got back in the trucks and started driving. And as soon as there's like a little mountain range we go over. And as soon as we got to the top of that, my phone just started buzzing nonstop. And it was like messages were just popping up and missed calls. And I was like, something happened here. And I eventually found out I had I was traded, and somehow Mitch Korn had gotten a hold of my mom at home. I don't know how he had my home phone number, but she told him that I was going to be out of service for 4 days. So he kind of told everyone. But at first, both GMs had called me, and all the Mitch and the goalie coaches had called me, and I had no clue that I was traded. It was kind of
Phone's just on silent or off, and they're just like, what
Yeah.
the hell is he doing? Is he ghosting us? He knows
I imagine
he knows we're trading him?
Yeah, I imagine they were kind of confused, but it was kind of a funny story. But yeah, when I found out, I was like really like, wow, I had no clue that was a possibility. But then I was excited. Like, I loved being a part of the organization, but then I was excited to see another organization and go try and work my way up in that organization. And it was exciting.
It sounds like you have a bit of a relationship with Mitch Korn. Do you still like talk to him this day? Are you trying to talk to him every day, or what's your relationship with him?
I don't talk to him every day, although sometimes that might be helpful. But yeah, I still we keep in touch, and whenever we're able to, we talk. And yeah, he's a great coach, and he's always a good mind to pick if you have questions about goaltending, because he definitely has some answers, and he's been around the game a long time, and he's always thinking about hockey and how to make goalies better. So he's a great hockey mind.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of building off that real quick, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. He's one of the best goalie coach ever. It's been known throughout the NHL, I feel like. I mean, what is the biggest difference in him and every other goalie coach that kind of puts him to that next level above and beyond the rest?
Well, I mean, he's really obsessed with hockey in the best way possible. Like he all he does is he eats, sleeps, and breathes hockey and goaltending, and that's just what he does. And so he's been, and I imagine that's probably how he's been his whole life. That's how he's been since I've known him, and I think that's what sets him apart. Is he focuses on hockey, and he focuses on how to make goalies better. And if you're a goalie that he's trying to make better, he puts the energy into you and helps find solutions to problems, and he tries to make you the best goalie that you can be, rather than kind of having a cookie cutter style of coaching. He works with the goalie themselves, and he's just, I think, the time he puts into the game and the focus he puts in is what sets him apart.
Sure. KP?
So jumping back, I guess, you're back to your career here. You played, I guess, a season and a half with St. Louis, and then right back to DC. Were you happy in that moment? You're coming back to DC, or did you kind of like think you found the niche with the Blues there?
I was really excited. I was familiar with all, like, the coaching staff was pretty much the same. Like in Hershey, it was all the same. I had a lot of the same players, and Scott Murray was still the goalie coach in Hershey, who was the goalie coach previously in Hershey when I was there. So it seemed like it was just, I was pretty excited because, like I said, I knew everybody, and it wasn't going to be a difficult transition. Like going into the Blues organization, I don't think I knew anybody, so everyone was new. It was a completely new situation, where when I was coming back, it was kind of the opposite, where I knew pretty much everybody and was familiar with both the Capitals and Hershey. So it was easy, and I was really excited to get back. It felt like Hershey and Washington had always treated me really well, so it was very exciting.
So I kind of want to talk about that 18-19 season, last season with with the Caps. Your kind of first full season in the NHL as a backup role. You start 24 games, playing 27, 16 wins under your belt, including 6 straight in that February and March run right there. I mean, hell of a season as a backup role. What really went right for you, and what was working so well for you in that span?
Well, I mean, first of all, it was a great team. It was a really fun team to be a part of. That core group they have up there is they make things really fun, and they love playing together. So it just kind of just wears off on everybody, and it was just a good team to be around. And then working with Scott Murray, he's another great goalie coach. I felt like throughout the playoffs when I was black acing, I got to work with him a lot, and then obviously I was familiar with him from before, but getting that chance to spend the extra 2.5 months with him on the ice, I think really helped me kind of prepare me for my first full season in the NHL. And then they just kind of, I think having that preparation is kind of what helped make my transition to my first full year smoother, and that led to more success for me.
So your first NHL shutout was a 35 save effort in Ottawa. I mean, did you think you played any different that game? Was it like you were in the same mentality going through the whole game, or how was your head during that?
I mean, it's kind of, I think most goalies would agree. I mean, you don't know when you're going to get a shutout. That's always the goal. You don't want to, you're out there not to give up goals and to give the team the best chance to win. So you never know when it's going to happen. And it was the game before Christmas, so maybe it had a little Christmas luck with me. But I don't know. I mean, it definitely, like, I felt good out there, and it was a fun game to be a part of, and it was awesome to get my first shutout.
Yeah, that's that North Pole luck rubbing off on you that game before Christmas.
Yeah.
Not bouncing off that, like, what you think, like, getting shelled a little early, like getting those first couple of saves, does that help you out, or do you ease your way into a game? Like, I know most goalies that, like, we talk to, like, they say, like, if they get like 3 or 4 scoring opportunities that they jump in front of right away, then they're into the game like immediately. But if it's slow action, then sometimes they're off of it.
It definitely helps, like getting a nice sweat in there and seeing the puck early. It makes it a challenge if you don't see a shot for 10 or 12 minutes to start the game. You're just kind of standing there and waiting around. It makes it a little bit more difficult than if you're getting shots right away and kind of finding a rhythm early.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So you were talking about black acing. We had Walks on the other week, and we asked him the same question. Take us through that Game 5 in Vegas there, because I'm interested to hear from your perspective. I mean, the whole ordeal, because, I mean, you guys were in the press box. I mean, he said once, I believe Devo scored, you guys rushed down, started getting dressed, and started getting ready just in case, because you never know in that situation when it's a cup-clinching game. How did you guys decide when to go down, and just kind of take us through that experience of getting dressed real quick, hoping that we would score that 4th goal, and then obviously the after party on the ice and lifting the cup for the first time and everything?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal, and it's a pretty big blur. I mean, it was a really close game, so we were kind of on the fence of like when we should start getting our gear on, and we don't want to obviously have our gear on, and then if it's going to overtime, we're kind of scrambling, hiding, and whatnot. So we were just kind of down there, like trying to decide when we should get our gear on. And I mean,
you're a goalie, you got a ton of shit to put on.
yeah. So yeah, we had to try and time it right, but it was, I mean, you could kind of feel it, like we had the momentum, and it just seemed like they weren't going to lose. So we were, but yeah, we were excited. And like I said, it's just kind of a blur thinking back. It was so much excitement, and then obviously when it happened and getting to be there and go on the ice, feel very fortunate to be a part of that. And it was awesome just seeing what that team had gone through, and how much each of those guys loved playing together, and being around that whole run was amazing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that was a blur, because when we asked Walker that question, he had no idea who scored the 3rd goal.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, it was crazy. It was
like, who tied it again? We're like, Devo, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It was mayhem. It was wild, and it was fun.
You got any fun stories from that night?
Yeah, because you guys stayed out in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, not off the top of my head. It was a wild night, though. I mean, it was just, it was crazy. It couldn't happen in a better spot, and obviously, like, it's kind of a dream come true. But man, it was fun, and like I said, I feel very fortunate to be a part of that, and yeah, it was a great time.
And then, I mean, you talk about that crazy night. You win a Stanley Cup, and you win it in fucking Vegas, of all places. And then you guys fly back. Talk about the week after you guys won. I mean, it looked like the shit show just continued after that. I mean, everyone has seen all the videos of jumping into the Georgetown fountain and all that. Do you have any, like, specific memories from that week after?
It was amazing how much support the team had. It seemed like everywhere we were going, it was just like everything was Capitals. Everything was. Yep. It was just amazing to be around how the whole city went crazy, and yeah, the team. I think, like I was saying, those guys love to play together so much. I think that's kind of what led into the celebration. It was a really tight knit team, and being around that and seeing that was pretty incredible. And I think Ovi had waited a long time to celebrate like that, so he really took advantage of that, and it was awesome to see that.
For sure. So did you get a day with the cup?
No.
If you did, how would you have spent it, or where would you have taken it?
Probably North Pole. Probably would have went to North Pole and let my friends and family get to see it up close. And that's still what I want to do in the future. That's my plan. Is just I would let my friends and family get to experience that, and because they especially my family's put a lot into traveling when I was younger, my parents, and so kind of getting to repay them would be great.
For sure. So I kind of want to take it off topic for a minute. A picture I saw on your Instagram was Halloween a couple years back, dressed as McGregor. I spent some time working with the UFC a few years back, so I'm a big McGregor nut hugger myself. Are you a big UFC guy? I see your favorite fighter. I mean, how much of it do you watch?
I enjoy watching UFC. Actually, Conor McGregor kind of got me into watching it. I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, one of his early fights when he won, and he just had the swagger and all the confidence in the world. And I was like, wow, that guy is fun to watch. And so I just kind of, obviously he's had a lot of people started watching UFC because of him. Obviously he's got the charisma. But yeah, so that's kind of what got me into it. And so now I like watching it. I find it a fun sport to watch and really entertaining. So
any other fighters you like to watch specifically?
I like Jorge Masvidal. He's fun to watch. Nate Diaz as well. I like his attitude. He's
just the cocky bastards.
Yeah.
The guys that talk shit and then back it up.
Masvidal, he's a bad motherfucker too.
Yeah, well, he won the BMF belt.
Yeah. A lot of these guys are crazy though. They're just like, it's crazy with the stuff they put their bodies through with the weight cuts and that stuff's insane. And then they go and fight the next night. It's wild.
You ever seen one in person?
No, actually when I was in Nebraska playing in the USHL, we went to it wasn't UFC, it was like some sort of like some promotion just had
probably like
it was
Bellator or
MMA.
Strike Force or something.
Yeah, I don't remember which one, but it was like just some sort of MMA promotion that did one in our rink, and we all went as a team and watched it. It was mostly just like local people from Nebraska or the Midwest that were fighting, but at that time I wasn't as into it, so I probably didn't like enjoy it as much as I would have now. But it's crazy, like just watching two guys go to war. It's very, it's like medieval.
It's a little nuts.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Here at those places are insane too. Like just outside of the ring, it's insane.
Yeah.
Well, that's when like people get in fights outside, like when Conor and Khabib fight. Like Russians and Irish people are just beating the shit out of each other in the stands.
Yeah. There's like even like I feel like watching it on TV, like there's like so much energy. Like it's hard not to get into a fight when you're watching it on TV.
Yeah.
Can't imagine what it'd be like in like Vegas or some big arena.
We saw one in DC.
We went to the one in DC.
Oh yeah.
He works for UFC. He's up in Vegas, so he's probably been to a million fights over there. I don't know about you, Billman. Have you?
Probably about 15, 20 in person. And yeah, they were in DC. What was it? Last summer or like last winter-ish? Maybe it was like 6 months ago. Maybe.
Yeah.
Right there at Capital One.
That was my first time, but it was a good time.
Cool.
But jumping back to hockey, the season was different. Obviously, the AHL canceled the rest of their season. I mean, now we just kind of heard the news today. What's going to happen? I guess, and they've put the first steps into motion. Have the Caps like reached out to you at all yet? Have you been staying in game shape and stuff like that? Because I mean, I know the AHL is done, but I'm assuming you might be black acing again if there's an injury that happens during the playoff run.
Yeah, they told me to be ready to black ace, and so I've been kind of doing workouts here, doing home workouts, and I have some dumbbell sets that I've been doing. It is kind of weird without access to a gym, but kind of had to get creative, and so yeah, I've just been doing workouts here and staying as ready as I can. And
Rocky Balboa trainings.
What's that?
Rocky Balboa trainings.
Yeah. Doing the old.
Well, I've seen some pictures that you put up. You were on some rollerblades there. Have you been doing any training like goalie wise with the blades?
I actually drew a crease and tried to see how that would go, but it's very different. It's like there's a lot of stopping and shuffling, and so that was very different. But I did draw a crease on the asphalt out by our place, and just kind of for fun. But no, I've rollerbladed and biked quite a bit, more just to kind of keep the cardio in shape. But at the same time, I kind of want to let my body rest as well. It's the season is long, and even though it got cut short, I feel like it's beneficial to let the body recover a little bit and be ready for when the season restarts.
Now, would you say there's more of a chance that it would help or hurt? Because like you said, beneficial rest, recovery, but you're getting out of game shape. I mean, going back to the UFC, ring rust. You know, fight for a while, you kind of get that ring rust. I mean, do you see it to be more beneficial getting the rest over, you know, staying in game situations?
I think there's a happy medium. I think, you know, at a certain point, it takes a while to get back into game shape, no matter what you do, because playing is different than any workout that you would do. Being on the ice and being in games and in practices is different than any kind of workout that you do, no matter what you do. So there's always rust if you're off the ice for a certain amount of time, no matter what. So I think, I mean, like I said, I think there's a happy medium. It's tough to say whether it would be more beneficial or less beneficial, but I think it certainly would be nice to be able to skate a little bit more, but at the same time, everyone's kind of in the same situation. So just kind of do what you can to give yourself the best opportunity for if and when we can skate again.
For sure. So kind of building off that and staying in game shape, I mean, there's no doubt that this is a massive offseason for this franchise. I mean, there's a thought around here that obviously that Holtby is gone. All eyes are going to be on Samsonov, but also that he may not be ready for that workload that we've seen, you know, Holtby playing 50 to 60 games a year over the past few years. So kind of getting to my point here is there's going to be that opening on the Caps roster for that main backup spot. And you go back to your time as a backup here. That season you had was incredible as a backup. Like we said, it was like 26 games, 17 wins, 6 in a row. I mean, are you going to approach this offseason any differently than you may have other offseasons in the past, knowing that, you know, you're probably fighting for that spot right there?
Well, I mean, first of all, my mindset is that I want to be in the NHL. I want to be on an opening night roster come next season. So whether or not that's any different than any other season, that's always my goal. But I'm certainly very hungry for that spot, and I'm going to do everything I can to have that spot. So I don't know. I feel like that's what I go into every year, but I'm very motivated right now for that spot. So I'm definitely going to do everything I can to be on that roster.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I remember you coming up. You kind of, like we said, came out of nowhere. You got signed. We're in Hershey, and then boom, you get that backup job. And I was like, holy shit, this guy's winning some games for us. That's what you like to see. You love a good goalie that's going to come in and win big games and, you know, relieve that stress. And yeah, like you said, I feel like that's the mindset you have to have, is you're always competing for an NHL spot. So it shouldn't be any different. So AB, go ahead.
Well, the other thing to bounce off that is how important it is for that 1-2 punch in the NHL now. I mean, it seems like all the successful teams right now, they have a 1-2 punch in net. And I mean, yeah, like we said, like we don't know what Holtby's deal is. So I mean, you'll slide up right there, and we've seen some success with you and Samsonov. I mean, we've always had great goaltending, it feels like, for these past like 5 years.
Yeah, it is important to have two good goalies, and at the NHL, that's where everyone wants to be. So there's always competition, and there's always guys fighting to be in that spot. So it's highly competitive, and it's I think it helps bring out the best in everyone, in all the goalies, because you have to put forth your best in order to get those spots. So I look forward to the challenges, and I think any athlete is very excited to compete like that, and high stakes are what brings out the best in everyone.
So we'll start to wrap it up here with some quick fire type questions here. I'll start with what's the toughest part, I guess, about being a goalie and living that goalie career, I guess?
Toughest part.
Yeah, because we're all skaters. I mean, I played goalie when I was like 8, but couldn't tell you past then.
Toughest part about being a goalie. A lot of the off ice stuff, like anything on. I love being on the ice, but anything that off the ice and that doesn't have to do with hockey is kind of what I don't like. Anything about being on the ice is what I love. So any of the talk or the political side of the game, not a big fan of.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So another goalie question. I mean, goalies have always been known as the kind of the weird cats on the team, the strange dudes in the corner almost. What would you say is the weirdest thing about you, or that you do when it comes to preparing or playing for a game, that will kind of fit that goalie mentality or that goalie persona?
I mean, I'm pretty quiet. I kind of keep to myself. I don't know. Like, that'd probably be a better question for someone else, because I just kind of like I'm just focusing on my job, and maybe people would say it like that I'm so quiet. Maybe I don't know, but I'm kind of just focusing on my job and getting myself into a mindset to perform at the highest level. So I would say maybe it's weird that I'm more quiet, but other than that, I just kind of keep to myself.
Are coaches coming up and talking to you before the games, or are they just like, let's leave him alone, let him do what he does?
I think it's different. Like some coaches have like pre-scouts for other teams' best players, like kind of where they're shooting or like their tendencies on breakaways. But and then some coaches just kind of leave you alone. So I think it's kind of different. That's kind of based on the coach.
Gotcha. KPAB, you got anything else?
Well, I got one. Do you like being a backup, or would you rather get that starting role? Because personally, too much pressure. Too much pressure, man.
No, I want to play all the games. I want to play as many as possible.
Right.
I do like being the backup quarterback, getting paid to do absolutely nothing. This is awesome.
Yeah. What's that guy on Blue Mountain State, Alex?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Or like a punter in the NFL. Like, you don't have the stress of kicking field goals, but just kick the damn thing down the field at least 25 yards.
Like getting paid $100,000 to do absolutely nothing.
No, I like playing games. I want to be the guy who plays, who the coach goes to when they need a win. That's my dream, to do at the highest level.
What's the pressure?
Sure.
Nice.
KP?
My last one. So when you're not playing hockey, what are you doing off the ice on your free time?
I started playing guitar a couple of years ago, so I've been playing a little bit of guitar. In the summers, I like to spend some time outside with my dog and girlfriend, like to go hiking and do a little fishing, do a little camping. So yeah, I'd say like spending time outdoors playing guitar.
Are you usually back in Alaska during the off seasons?
Yeah. Usually I go back to Alaska.
Nice. What, have you ever seen that Alaskan Bush People show? That's a cool show.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
I've seen it. It's kind of tough to watch because I feel like a lot of it is like it's very dramatized. So
very played out.
Yeah. But people always ask me that. They ask me if I've seen that show.
Sure. So last one, we're coming to the end here. It seems like hopefully of this stay at home, of this quarantine order. So how have you passed the time? Have you been watching any good shows on Netflix, watching movies? Like you said you picked up the guitar, so I'm sure you've been practicing, but how have you been really passing the time to keep yourself from getting crazy bored?
Actually, I'm getting towards the end of the Last Dance documentary, and that's been
so good.
It's been unbelievable. I've been really excited about watching that every night. So don't know what I'm going to do in that when I'm done watching that, but that's been definitely the best thing I've watched this whole time.
That before games, that'll get you.
Yeah. Every time I'm done watching, I'm like just ready to go. It gets me fired up.
You'll binge watch it, and then you'll love it so much. You walk into the Caps locker room with the cigar in your mouth. It's just like, what the hell are you doing, dude? He's like, fucking Jordan did it. That guy's got rings.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's awesome, like seeing what that guy, just how he handles himself and the amount of confidence he has. It's crazy.
For sure. So that's all we got. Pheonix Copley, guys, we appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a pleasure, and we're looking forward to you and the rest of your career here in Washington, and hoping to see you in that Caps jersey next year.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Bar down. Off the bar. Bar down. Cross bar and down. Off the bar and down.